Most of us first met her when she burst into our lives as Grace Adler. She was this goofy, gorgeous Jewish interior designer that became a total icon. We've loved her from Broadway to the big screen and the red carpet, but I've been lucky enough to get to know the woman behind the legend. This is Debra Messing. Debra. Hi. How are you? Thank you so much for making time for this.
Oh my gosh,
I know how busy you are.
I'm thrilled to see you, to be with you anytime, any chance I get, and to be a part of this project is just, of course it's your brainchild. So I'm all in.
Everything about you is what I love about being Jewish. Everything you bring, everything you are, your strength, your resilience, your light, everything you've done in the past and everything you will do, I'm sure, in the future. It's just everything I love. So we have a lot to talk about. We'll start with Rhode Island.
Yes.
How was it to be one of the few Jewish children in this town?
It was very hard. It was, I think just now as an adult, I'm just now dealing with how hard it was. I was just clearly an other. I was clearly an outsider. And, you know, we had a swastika painted on my grandfather's car, and I didn't know why people didn't like me. And my parents had to sit me down and at a very young age and say, look, you're Jewish and you are different and you have done nothing wrong. You just have to be strong and proud. I think I did everything I could to hide that I was Jewish growing up. I mean, I spent 2 hours straightening my hair in the morning. My self-esteem was low, and when I found the stage, it was my savior, because I could just disappear. I wasn't myself anymore. I was somebody else.
Will and Grace is probably one of the most iconic shows ever, and I think a lot of people would confuse you and Grace is because there's so much of you in her.
I am not Grace. It is a character. I won an Emmy for it. I even beat Sarah Jessica Parker. People forget. I'm shaving my head.
And I mean, she's Jewish, she's a fashion icon, she's beautiful. Well, I mean, yeah, you couldn't change that. You couldn't act not beautiful. But she's bringing so much of Debra into the screen. And it's, I mean, we're talking years ago when it was...
25 years ago.
She was the first one of the first Jewish female actresses on primetime TV, rather.
Yeah. We knew that we were breaking ground with having, you know, two gay lead characters, and really exploring their humanity, which had never really been done on TV. But I thought, okay, we're either going to be canceled in 2 episodes, or they're going to fall in love with these characters because the writers are so great. Both creators of the show were Jewish. The director was Jewish. We hadn't really talked about it. I just remember saying, I just want her to be as Jewish as possible. Like, I want to embrace it. And I can't tell you how many women, young women, have come up to me and said, I can't thank you enough for Grace, because I had curly hair. I had crazy curly hair growing up, and I just felt ugly all the time. And, you know, you were a role model, and I was able to see someone who I thought was beautiful. It had more impact than any of us had planned. We were just there to make people laugh.
I think it was probably what made some Jewish characters become more permanent on the screen than they used to. I think there's still not enough, I think, but whatever we have now is I think it's all thanks to the groundwork of Will and Grace.
There's a new show on about this young rabbi, right? And he's dating this shiksa.
Right.
And it's amazing. It really does sort of take some of the mystery off of, like, what is it? Being a rabbi, like, are they normal? Right. You know, are Jews, like, can they integrate really? We just need writers to just write stories about everyday people who happen to be Jewish, who, you know, live their lives with their traditions. the way that we did with the LGBTQ community.
It's a good point, because I remember in the Will and Grace, in the new latest seasons, there was a part where there was you remember the mega cake episode?
Yeah.
And Grace goes there and she's fighting for the rights of Karen to have this cake with mega, although she says to the lady in the counter, I hate doing it with my core, and I'm standing with you, but we have to allow it to happen.
Cake. Open the box.
Maybe do that at home. Can you lift up your hand, please? Okay. Your hand is still there. How could it be? I cut it off for making this horrible cake.
And then there was this whole part about different minorities. There's, I think, a trans man. There's a disabled person coming, and there's and they all
Everyone
pile
came
on,
in. Everyone came in.
Grace, and Grace says, "I fight for all of you," and she feels it's so uncomfortable to even try and protect free speech, because she disagrees with this free speech, but she does it. And I think it's taking it to Debra Messing, that has been an outspoken voice for the LGBTQ community. I mean, that's something that Debra Messing has always done. There wasn't, I mean, it's not even a question. And you never looked for something in return. You were always, this is what you do because you support social justice and equality.
Yeah.
And I don't want to stop. And I know you won't stop either. Because at the end of the day, it's our responsibility to look out for one another. It's the American way.
And you're saying the last year and a half that it's been heartbreaking for you.
It has been, I don't even have a word for the kind of existential pain that it has caused. Because for 25, 30 years, I've walked with every single marginalized community. And not because I wanted a quid pro quo.
Right.
It was because it was the right thing to do. I have such admiration for all the people and all the leaders who have come before me and who I was able to support. And then this happened and you couldn't find one. I am still mourning, you know, because I feel like I have to completely adjust my idea of what allyship is. Because it's not supposed to be convenient. And it's not supposed to be conditional. None of us thought it was possible to experience this much targeted hate and contempt and erasure and gaslighting and lying. And I don't think anyone can prepare you for that. I think I was naive. I was like, oh, 5 months. In 5 months, the war will be over. We will have all of the hostages back, and then we will rebuild. And obviously, that's not the case.
I think a lot of us were feeling the same thing that you just said. It's just so painful to think that specifically the people in our society that are supposed to care for equality and social justice and for other people's rights, to see them turning their back at us. And I think a lot of us were waiting for something so bad to happen that they will have to do something. But then I tell myself, you know, October 7th happened and they still didn't show up for us.
I think I had to have that little talk in my head where I said, okay, you have to stop waiting for people to stand up for you because they're not going to do it. Which I think I knew when I was 7. I felt that, I knew people hated me. I knew that it made no sense, and I knew there was nothing I could do to change it because I was a Jew, and that was the only reason that they didn't like me. So that full circle moment requires a lot of therapy to break down, you know.
Same. One of the first times we met, I think, was in the White House. It was a Hanukkah party, and you had this gorgeous dress that I think you said was actually from Will and Grace.
Oh, I have dresses that are 25 years old from Will and Grace.
Really? Oh my God.
Back in the day, before corporations owned all of entertainment, at the end of a run, they would say, well, you know, these clothes were tailored to you, and you know, take them. It's funny, anytime I put on something from the Will and Grace days, like a blouse or something, they're like, that blouse is amazing. And I always clock it. I'm like, yeah, I never would have picked that out in the store. I would have been like, huh? So I don't really think of myself as a fashion icon. I think of myself as a fashion fan who, you know, loves to play and will try anything and, you know, looks at it as like as an outlet for creativity.
Were you always like this, or did you discover it with your career and became more?
No, growing
daring?
up next to a farm
Right.
in Rhode Island, you know, everybody wore Levi jeans. It was the time of Bruce Springsteen. So Levi jeans, white t-shirt, Timberland boots,
Right.
you know, and the girls got fancy when we wore Sassoon or Jordache
Oh my
jeans.
God.
And that was it.
So, you know, your career has been so exciting and you've done so much, and now you're working on, there's new projects coming out, and there's a movie, two movies coming out.
movies, yeah.
Can you tell us about them?
Yeah. One of them is Alto Nights, which is a mob movie, a true story, and it stars Robert De Niro in both leading men's parts, and I play his wife, who was Jewish.
Oh, really? Wow.
And it is the only time in history that a mob boss was married to a Jewish woman.
Wow.
And so doing the research of that was fascinating. And then I executive produced and participated in a documentary called October 8th, which is all about what happened in our streets, on our campuses, starting literally the day after October 7th. But really from the beginning, our goal was to get it into every high school in America because it doesn't litigate the war in any way. Really what it is, it's about fundamentalism and extremism and the threat that it is against democracies and, you know, Western values.
Right. You embody how you're able to be very proud of your Jewish identity, very confident and very successful. You know, your career has always been incredibly successful. How do you hold those two things together? You are able to be confident in who you are and not shy away from it.
I think you give me more credit than I'm due.
No.
But I do think it's something that I have consciously and intentionally worked on my entire life. We are blessed to have Israel as our homeland, and we know that there is one place in this world that we are safe, and we have to honor it and protect it and cherish it. And so my parents were proud Zionists my entire life. And so, you know, I feel to honor them, you know, I have to continue that, you know, and not shy away from it. I just want people to look at me as an artist who loves storytelling and wants to be a part of things that have impact.
I think you and Barbra Streisand are two of the... Said it in the same sentence.
God, the same sentence. I almost died. You can't do that to me. Did you see the picture?
I did. I'm
you see-
obsessed.
Babs.
I mean, right, but it's true. You too.
I literally that was after her retirement concert,
right.
And they were like, Barbra Streisand would like to know if you'd like to come backstage, and I started weeping, like people were laughing, and
Right.
you know, and I was like, you don't know what you mean to me. Like literally, Funny Girl is the reason I became an actress.
Oh, wow. How was meeting her?
It was incredible.
Yeah.
It was. In the beginning of the concert, she was, you know, saying, "I have so many friends here with the nails," you know, and she was like listing like Dick Van Dyke and like, oh, Marlon Brando, and you know, and then from the back of the Staples Center, someone went, "Will and Grace," and she's like, "What?" And someone yells, "Will and Grace," and she's like, Debra Messing, are you here? And I went, and I jumped up and I was screaming. It was an out-of-body experience because everyone was still sitting at the time. And it was written up in the papers. Wow. And then I broke into tears. And so by the time I got backstage, she knew that she had a ball of mess to deal with. But I just, you know, I couldn't speak. I just cried and I'm like, you're everything.
So cute. There was one episode of Will and Grace where she was working for Grace. This woman, she's Persian, and Grace is walking on eggshells to not hurt her, and she's terrible at her job. And then Grace said something about being Jewish and about her life, and the Persian lady says back to her, "Oh, that's amazing. That reminds me of my bat mitzvah portion." And Grace says, what? You're Jewish? We're both Jewish? We're both part of the same people?
Tolerant world. Excuse me.
What a beautiful sentiment. I made a similar speech at my bat mitzvah.
Bat mitzvah? You're Jewish?
Like brisket.
Jewish? I can't believe this. This is great. This is wonderful.
Okay, why?
Because we're both Jewish. I don't have to be tolerant of my own kind. I don't owe you anything.
What's your point?
You're fired. See you, Temple.
That's amazing. And the lady's like, well, okay, why is it amazing? She said, because you're fired. I'll see you in Temple.
Oh, God.
That was iconic. You had such an impact on so many people around the world, on so many communities. But I think for the Jewish community, you had the most tremendous impact because you are strong, you are proud, you are unapologetic, and you've been a voice for us. And I think a lot of young Jews even if they didn't grow up on Will and Grace, like they get to know you now through your work and your advocacy, and even like Gen Zs that are telling me, oh, I watched Will and Grace because I saw how proud Debra Messing is. It's amazing. And what would you tell them? I mean,
honestly, I feel like Gen Z needs nothing from me. They are the strongest, the most proud, the most ferocious, the most determined generation yet of Jews. So I just say, stay the course. The quandary is still, how do you have conversations with people who think the opposite of you in a way that could be productive, you know? I can care desperately about the Palestinian people and their dignity and their freedom. And I can weep daily for the death and destruction. And at the exact same time, I could say, Israel and my people exterminating us is not an option. Right. How to get to that point where there's that mutual respect, that's the thing, that the nut that is so big that I don't even know how to address it, which is why I'm always texting you.
But I think you know what you're doing. I think you have a good strategy. I'm here to support and help, but I think your voice and your authenticity is what shines through, and I think we're fighting anti-Semitism as if we're going to eradicate it and that it will not be anti-Semitism, but we recognize that it's going to always exist.
It's a virus that shapeshifts and has for millennia, and we're not strong enough to wipe it out. But we have to stop what's the growth of it.
Every episode we end with asking this question. So you're a talented actor. You're an incredible voice for the Jewish community. You're a trailblazer. You've worked for inclusion and rights. I think you're a fashion icon. Okay, fashion curious, you said? But
yes.
I think an icon.
I like that term.
And you're brilliant, and you're a producer, and just an incredible human being. But you're also Jewish, and they're Jewish. What does the last part means?
It means I'm a fighter.
Yes.
It's in our DNA to be fighters because we've had to fight for our survival forever. And the word family just keeps coming back. Being a Jew is being part of a global family.
I love that, and I love that you're part of my family now. Thank you so much for your time,
my
for
menstrual
everything. Yes. Love you.
I love you more.